also from Steve. Great questions coming. How often do you do inspections, if at all? Now, again, I'm getting tired. My grammar is getting very improper very quickly. I have actually had a little bit of a learning curve on the property inspections. I will be the first person to tell you that I have not required inspections as much as I should have from the property managers. So I have all of my properties are split between 2 property managers right now, just because one doesn't do a particular area and she does more specific types of properties, and then the other one just kind of does all of them. So I have 2 different property managers that I work with. The one who has way fewer properties, who manages way fewer properties of mine than the other group, they are much higher end. They'll only work with properties of a certain quality. The house that I used to live in is much nicer than your standard turnkey, so they manage that one. They just do kind of a higher caliber thing, and they have a thing now where it gets a yearly inspection, and it's actually included in my management fees, that they have a company, and this is all they do. They go do rental property inspections, and just like a regular property inspection report when you're buying a property, they do all of this. They report back, they send pictures. I mean, I think last year's document, and maybe it's every 2 years they do it. I don't know if I've gotten one this year, but it was like 70 pages long. Like, I mean, it was thorough. And I was like, this is the best thing since sliced bread, because I just don't have to worry about anything. So that management company is doing, I think it's yearly, but I feel like it's been a year, so maybe it's every other year. But that property usually doesn't have any problems because it is higher end, it's nicer tenants, all that kind of stuff. The other properties that are the turnkeys, they're not nice. They're great properties, but it's a slightly different caliber. I have been in talks with my property management company. I would like to do yearly inspections, and I'm always on the fence about this because I feel like yearly might be a little much, but this is also where I get myself in trouble too, because I just can't imagine, like, I rent my apartment here in Venice, and I would be really annoyed if someone came in to inspect it every year. And I think that's why I've been a little more hesitant on requiring inspections. But as I said earlier in the recording, I just went through a nasty, expensive turnover because we had bad tenants. But where I went wrong in that one is I knew they were bad tenants, and they were in there for maybe 4 years, 5. They were in there for a while. And I had it in my head. I was like, well, I know they're not good. They're low quality. They're probably trashing the place. I know they're smoking a bunch of weed all the time. And I don't know if they were dealing. I don't think anything big was going on, but they were just not the higher end of classier tenants. But I had it in my head. I was like, well, I know they're not great, but I'll just clean everything up when they leave. Well, what I learned the hard way is the level of damage, and I don't even know if it damages I guess it's damage. Like, the carpets all had to be ripped out. There was no saving the carpets. The blinds were all destroyed. And they also bounced 30 days ahead of time. So while I got to keep their security deposit, I also lost out on their last month's rent. They gave no notice. So what little money I had in a security deposit anyway, or I mean, it's average amount, but it didn't even pretend to cover all this, because basically that just covered the last month's rent, barely. So that really taught me that inspections need to happen more often. But again, as I'm saying this out loud, I don't know why I've not been very good about requiring inspections, and so I don't know the answer to that, how often you should have inspections. But I think maybe having a conversation, I guess I'm actually talking to myself here, like, what do I want to do for inspections? Maybe my plan will be to have a conversation with my managers. Like, a couple of the tenants, or I know of one house that just got tenants last September, October or something. They're coming up for a renewal, or maybe the renewal's now. I think it'd be a perfect time to legitimately go do an inspection. Say, hey, you've been in the property for a year now. Actually, I'm going to make a note to myself. Yes, I think they should have an inspection. There's another property I know of that there's been some repairs over the last couple of years, and so when the repair people go in there, I've gotten feedback on how the house looks. At one point I said, hey, can you have people report back, like, is the house in good shape, is it whatever? And I think it's a thing too where I feel like properties are either going to be in good shape or bad shape. Like, I don't know how many people operate kind of in the middle of, how many tenants would operate in the middle of this. Like the bad ones that I just had the expensive turnover, I should have probably had inspections going, but I also don't know what the remedy is. If they're not taking care of the property, maybe they can be served a pay or quit type of thing. I don't know. I admit that this gets into my weaker, more wussy side of managing things. I can be great at putting my foot down, great at whatever, but then once I get confused, I'm like, I don't know. So it's actually a thing that I'm going to talk to my managers about, of how often do we need to be doing these. And one thing for me is they have a few times promised they would do inspections and then they don't do them. And that's what's been throwing me off too, is that I forget about it forever. And I'm like, wait, didn't I ask them a year ago to do an inspection? And then it just feels like a lot of effort to have to go back, but I 100% need to get on them about that and require it, because they're just not performing on that. So another ramble to a very short question. What's Scott say? Scott, you say about inspections. I've been on both sides of regular inspections. I am so excited about whatever you're about to say. It has become normal to have someone come in to inspect prior to my lease renewal, but I've had property management for my 2 houses in the past that were on both ends of the spectrum. One never did it, while the other did it too much. Glad that one didn't seem to piss off the tenants, at least to my knowledge. I like that. I don't even know who most of my tenants are. I love hearing about finding extra pets during scheduled inspections. I feel like I heard a really interesting something found during an inspection, something along the lines of like extra pets. I don't remember. I feel like I heard a story somewhere. I don't know if it was on another Facebook group or something, but what kind of extra pets? Is it just like an extra cat or an extra dog, or like, so actually here's a question for you, Scott. What happens, and this is kind of plays into one of my confusions, is let's say the inspector goes in and finds it's super dirty, or let's say they find an extra pet. What do you do at that point? Like if it's just extra dirty, I don't know if they legally have, if they can say, offer a pay or quit, or what the legalities are around enforcing someone to keep the property in good shape. But the extra pet, I feel like, would be a little bit more straightforward, because normally you would get a pet non-refundable pet fee, or whatever the case may be. Whatever you do for money, but you can get deposits on pets. So if your inspections have shown you extra pets, do you end up does your management company end up requiring them to pay a pet fee? Or most leases also say how many pets you're allowed to have and what kinds. Have these extra pets gone past that limit? And if so, do you kick the pet out? So I'd love to hear what has happened in your extra pet scenarios. Yeah, and I totally agree about both ends of the spectrum. Some management companies never doing inspections, and some doing them too often. I could almost only wish that I had a property management company that's so on top of things that they're doing them too often, because I feel like that'd be easy to dial back. But I'll tell you, property managers, turnkey providers, whoever, like getting them to do things that they're not already doing, or that they don't really care to be doing. But again, I'm not managing tenants or repairs or toilet floaty balls, so I will put up with it.